We now have a Warframe that I worry even now I am not being harsh enough about, and that is Banshee. Banshee is not allowed to be relevant in content. If she ever is, I will personally princess carry her to that content because she can't survive for shit. Horrifically bad defenses usually have
became universal. Everyone quite naturally swapped to Helios, because Helios meant that you didn't have to scan anything yourself, and also with the detect vulnerability augment, it made Banshee even more relevant than she already is.
Just a hunch. I feel like not enough people are giving Banshee a proper chance. She hasn't seen any significant balance changes in the past 7 years, and that lack of attention from the developers can make her seem boring compared to newer, flashier options. I created this build to be a higher focus on weapons platform gameplay. With Condemn replacing your fourth, you now have an ability that can easily keep you alive and restore your shields when needed, along with a good amount of CC. Condemn also keeps you moving, shooting, and reloading when you cast it, giving you more movement while staying alive and putting out massive damage.
Banshee is, if I remember correctly, with the latest resources that Digital Extremes gave us, she's the second less played Warframe in the entire game, and it's not because she's misunderstood, not by a long shot, it's because she fucking sucks. And for any of you that say, yo, but she has never been this viable, yeah, because she has access to the same tools that every single other frame has.
Oberon and Loki walk into a club. They get told to back the fuck off by the bouncer. Only relevant people, sorry old fellas. Then, as the bros they are, they just go for a walk, and the first corner they pass, they bump into Banshee. She's crying. Is everything alright, lady? Yes, no, she answers. They let my bestie in, and she isn't even popular. During the past 7 years, I've been a Banshee main. And I don't mean it in a, oh, this is my favorite Warframe kind of way. More of a, my second most played Warframe has 4 times less playtime than my Banshee kind of way. I've tried endless mod combinations, endless synergies, and I have so much Forma on her that I ended up using 3 Umbra for the memes and getting a second one for flexibility. And still, I am probably not even close to the expert on her that I like to think that I am. But what I am is, or at least it's what seems to be, the only vocal advocate for her since, well, that just leaves me. And maybe Disto with his build guide. Go check it out, it was pretty good. What I'm trying to say here is that if there's ever gonna be a video about this topic,
I'll do it myself.
So let's not waste any more time and rip the band-aid off. Why does the Shee need a rework? Well, it is, and you better believe I'm gonna qualify this statement, because she sucks! And it's not that she is not viable enough, not that she is not tanky enough, because even if those 2 points were not a problem, and even if you, like me, managed to fix them, she's terribly designed, and you cannot just buff bad design till it's fixed. Banshee, like some other subjects, has a very old kit, but that isn't a bad thing necessarily. I mean, look at Mag, look at Nyx, look at Nova, look at any old frame that has been reworked. Fuck, even Frost, which I hesitate to even claim they reworked in the first place. The common thing between all of these Warframes is that they work. Yes, all of them got some spice added on top, but the basic ideas of their abilities, when pumped up to the modern standard of Warframe power levels, work just fine. Or even great. And yeah, some of them straight up need augments to work, but even if they were hanging from the proverbial bandage, they still work. And this isn't exclusive to recently buffed or reworked Warframes. let's take a quick look at somebody that has only been slightly touched by the balance team since 9 years ago. What the actual Rhino? Good old Rhino. This big man has a mobility 1, a survivability 2, a damage boost 3, and a crowd control 4. And each one of his abilities, which are really good just at base functionality, have completely bonkers augments that you can flex to push him even further beyond. But he has never been reworked. He has always been the same good old reliable. And even without the bells and whistles, he just works. Because he has tools that adapted perfectly to the old Warframe, and now also to the new Warframe meta. Lots of people used to build towards his 4 because crowd control used to be more important, but crowd control still works today, still can save your ass. And even if you don't care about it, we can call it a helming slot. You build more towards survivability and damage today, and his 2 and 3 perform admirably. I mean, you can play Steelpath with no mods. With no mods! The fuck? But it makes sense. Mobility in a movement game, it's gonna be useful. Tankiness in a game with enemies that can one-shot you, very useful. Multiplicative damage, yes, we do love that. We love it so much that 90% of the wisps out there are overdosing on a dirty bathroom because of the height this provides them. And Big CC works on 90+% of enemies, and it makes them harmless. And dead. And I didn't even go into the augments, like don't get me started on them. 10 puncture procs, what the f***? So yeah, this graceful transition from the old Warframe to the new Warframe that I just explained, well, Banshee missed that train and slipped on a banana peel on her way back home. Okay, I mean that's a bit harsh. Because Banshee does not have a kit. She has random abilities. And random abilities used to work in this game. You were able to build for just one specific ability, because generalist builds were far less common. I mean, like, this is off-script. I remember that game. I was there. It was for a short time, but I was there. And I remember she was outclassed, but it was manageable. She was the squishy frame, she was the difficult to use frame, but you could use her. Her abilities worked for the situations that they were required in. And the irony of all this is that, technically, she's better now. Now you have more augments, now you have fucking Umbra mods, now you have Helminth, now you have Archon shards. Like, Banshee has never been this viable before. But she's only that viable if you apply extremely hyper-specific and expensive solutions. And if you don't employ those solutions, if you just have the base frame and you wanna use her kit, she doesn't work. And it's all due to her design. And that's the issue. Her design is shit! This is Banshee's passive. A passive that would only be useful with invisibility. Something she does not have, and you couldn't reliably get until very, very recently. I made the Invis build, it is pretty good. Back in the day, there were far less enemies. We had no steal path. Spy missions were not irrelevant, and enemies being less quick to react to you, in a way, was a type of survivability. In fact, I would even go as far as claiming that, back in the day, this was probably a very underrated and thematically appropriate way to make this glass cannon survive more than she deserves. Nowadays, we are playing a horde shooter, a muso with guns, a genocide simulator without the Geneva Convention. Unless you do this very specific build, where it can actually make enemies not shoot in your direction while you're invisible, this is not a passive. Banshee, nowadays, does not have a passive. So that's a great start. Her 1 is half of an ability. The most useless crowd control ability in the entire game. And I mean it. Banshee's 1 lasts nothing, has a very small AoE, it does damage, or so the ability description says, unless... well, unless... CC, even with its lacking performance nowadays, due to both the Eximus rework and the ever-diminishing notoriety of defense game modes, no matter what the sweatlords say, is very useful. Banshee's 1 provided CC is not. In fact, it makes your enemies even harder to kill because, how can I access their weak points now? Like, what am I supposed to do here? Isn't that the whole deal with her? Hitting weak points? So, if this ability is almost worse than not even pressing the button in the first place, why do I say it's half of an ability? It is because it has an augment. It makes your 1 armor strip even at very low power strength, and it armor strips fully in an AoE. Cool. So in order to have an ability that is most of the time simply outclassed by simply pressing your 2, you gotta get rid of a mod slot. Cool. Speaking about her 2 though. Her 2 is the only reason why people even look her way, which to be honest it's very funny to me, because there is not much application in the game for this level of damage unless you're a level capper, which, let's be real, most of the community probably doesn't even know at which level enemies stop scaling, and haven't even gone for further than 30 minutes in a mission. I mean, for fuck's sake, there's a Nightwave elite mission that asks of you to stay for 20 minutes in a Cuba survival. Yeah. So whenever I do one of my solo builds and I stay 10 minutes nuking the shit out of the enemies in mod or tab uni for testing, and specifically if the build is able to keep the life support by itself, that is not a working build. That is an overkill build, and I'm so tired of pretending it's not. Oh wow, what a shit frame, am I right? It can only kill everything without decrease by herself in one of the hardest missions for 10 minutes straight, ignoring the mechanic that is placed to allow for your survival. What I'm trying to say here is that whenever you upload your level cap builds, I mean, cool. Like, no, really, no sarcasm here, cool. I will be the first one to watch, because I am curious. I like to see what people do to bend and push the mechanics in one of my favorite games ever. But you gotta be cognizant that most of your public isn't gonna build it. And even if they do, they aren't pushing 20 minutes with it. So we should probably stop using that as a metric of how good something is in normal play sessions. Oh yeah, her 2. So her 2 is very good, it is very good. But Digital Extremes doesn't allow it to work anywhere where it could actually be useful. Because as long as you have a good gun, you can insta-kill any normal enemy with your armor strip. But God forbid we use it on bosses. Not like, even with damage mitigation being a thing now, people still find ways to one-shot, and God forbid somebody is crazy enough to bring the Glass Lady to one of those missions and do the exact same thing while taking more work and being less safe. Dog, listen, if you can bring this chick to, I don't know, Profit Taker and survive, I think you have earned it. If you can bring her to... if you can bring her to Eidolons and survive... remember when the Rubico Ravens were the shit and now Timmy can get a Necromech and style on them showing who's girthier? So yeah, her 2 is very good, but it is very ill-suited for Warframe. It however has one use, and that one use is the reason I like Banshee so much. It can make an old-ass weapon look like the bee's knees. Banshee is, before anything else, a weapons platform. And if you're ready to work around her limitations, she might even be the best weapons platform. The thing is, usually, weapon platforms are safe picks in this game. So what about her survivability? Her 3 can instantly cancel enemy abilities. This is underrated. Slightly. What I use this for is, oh, Mr. Acolyte, please don't. I have an old fulminant Adrian. Fuck you, you think you're the one who can silence my ass. Bang, bang, bang. The bad part is, this is what it cancels, and this is what it doesn't. I've played Banshee for 7 years, and I refuse to learn this list, because half of this ability works half the time. Great. Now, the long animation that you can force enemies into, the one where they go, oh my ears, that you can prolong with Gloom, even though nowadays that is way worse because Exemos. Well, I really like that part actually. I think it encourages you to move around, which is good for squeezier frames like her, and it rewards you re-triggering the animation anytime an enemy leaves your effective range and then goes back in again. It is very cool. You know what isn't though? The fact that it has anti-synergy with the rest of her kit. If you wanna use this to its full extent, it follows that less range would be best, because the less range, the less far away you need to get from an enemy to retrigger this CC, so the less time between that enemy stops being CC and gets CC'd again. But if you wanna use her 1 consistently, her 2 consistently, or her 4, if you wanna use the rest of her kit, you need range. But it gets even worse, because ironically enough, her 1 range is so shit that Overinvested in it doesn't help that much, and her 2 is so big already that just a smidge of it is more than enough most of the time. Do you see why I scream into the void when do you see why I scream into the void when I wake up? So, ironically enough, even though her 3 is the most anti-synergistic thing to ever exist, you can just add this and be slightly off the mark, and everything kinda flows together good. Remember how Rhino just worked? Now it's the time for the other shoe to drop. Rhino has no direct synergy between his abilities, and it's not an issue whatsoever. That I can take, but anti-synergy, hurting parts of your kit by using others, this is ancient, this is Silurian dysfunction, Jurassic Young, fucking Cretaceous crippling depression. Yeah, the 3 does some more stuff too, I guess. About the enemies being less receptive to stuff part, don't I have this passive already? I mean, what the fuck is the point then? A mess. This is all a mess. So, at this point, we have not a passive, half of a 1 that is redundant with the 2, a 2 that is not allowed to work in the content where it would be useful, and the very definition of inconsistent junk in her 3. Also, she does not respond well to a lot of stats, because 2 is recastable, so duration is not needed in big amounts, 3 needs no range, strength beyond 130 is honestly just overkill, so the 4 will save her kit, right? Like, the 4 will tie this all together.
And you know what? Yeah, let's add the range buff. Yeah, this would be the build. Like, the thing is, would this even... Okay, so I think this is a fair test. 156 charges of Multi Augmented with that fucking build. And now we are gonna cash sonar in a bit. Okay? We're gonna get rolling power. There it is. And... what the fuck is this piece of shit?
Okay, so here's the deal. You can choose between 3 options, okay? First option, a channeled ability that does no damage after Saturn, out of the steel path, with a CC that doesn't work on Eximus, which isn't different from other CCs, but you are stuck on the ground using it, that allows you to lock down a map with this absurd of an energy cost. Option 2, an augmented version that does fuck ton more damage, that stops working before level 60, outside of the steel path, that allows you to quickly nuke low-level missions, as in low-level missions. Or, hear me out, 3, you say fuck it and override it with something useful because her one at least technically does something. I could go into detail why her 4 is so ass, but instead, I'm gonna hammer this point till it's dead. Let me show you something very funny. This is Siratropa, some kind commenter and another Banshee main that showed me some unhinged stuff in this comment right here. So, thank you, Siratropa, you're welcome. This Japanese player has this amount of casting speed, has sonar mapped to mouse click so they can shoot the gun and recast sonar at the same time. Truly a certified Japanese gamer moment. But that is not the point. Still, go watch this. It is a truly impressive showcase of limit pushing with a frame like Banshee. So yeah, go watch that. The point being, this guy cast sonar more than all of the other 4 Banshee mains combined in a single mission. And in case you didn't know, because why would you, sonar also interacts with Warframe abilities, including Banshee's 4. And this is how much damage it does with this level of sonar spam and the augment. Huh. Banshee's 4 used to be good. It allowed for crowd control in a meta where crowd control was not only better but more necessary, or damage in at least 50% of the entire game progression. So, now it doesn't. Now it just doesn't. It doesn't count anymore. It's not enough. It's not enough numbers. It's not enough. I rest my case. I rest my case. So with all that we've learned, how do I play this poor old girl regularly and have the amount of success that I get? Well, like this. This is my Overinvested Banshee build, which serves 2 purposes. Those 3 Umber formas, that is my wedding ring on her proverbial finger. It shows love and commitment towards her. The second purpose is a call for help. So, this is my Overinvested Banshee, and she has 2 purposes. The first purpose is to give this poor old lady a game loop, because she currently lacks one. What I mean by that is, you can catch your enemies with Condemn, you can calmly cast your sonar, and then you can throw the enemies and they get stuck in the air, and you can shoot at them and they fucking die because they are weak, they have weak spots, they have no armor, and there's absolutely nothing they can do. Also, there's a little bug that you can do where you can bonk enemies towards a wall with your 1, only if they are condemned. This is a bug that I found recently, by the way. And they die! They lose half of their maximum HP for... I don't know what kind of arcane code does that, but it does that. And the other purpose of this build is I think this joke is over now, right? I think the joke is over. Like we can move forward, right? You can see what the purpose of this build is, right? Well, so now, very quickly, How did I achieve this? So, by doing funny things. And by funny things, I mean using every single thing that there is in this game that makes someone survive more. Every single thing. Every single thing. The first element, as you saw, is Condemn. It seizes enemies, so they don't shoot at you, and it gives you overshields, which is already very good. Very, very, very fucking good. But that was not enough, so I gave her 2 Tofort's armor shards. Because I'm gonna force this poor old girl to health tank. And I know how this looks. I know how this looks, okay? I know you're looking at this 3 Umbra format. I know that you're looking at those 17 format, right? But stop looking at that. Stop looking at that. Let's look at the 828 armor. That stacks with another 900 from this. Which gets us to almost 1,800, which is basically the hard cap on armor, which means you're not gonna get any more benefits from armor up from that point forward. Like, you can keep adding armor, the difference is not gonna be noticeable. So that's pretty good already, you know, like having this level of armor with Condemn basically unkillable at that point, but I thought that was not enough. So I added Arcane Aegis, which is gonna be proccing all the time because you have Condemn, which means you have Overseals, which means this is gonna be always having an opportunity to proc. So from time to time, you'll just be completely unkillable for 12 seconds. And if that's not enough, I use Adaptation because I'm a solo player and every single enemy in the level is gonna aggro me and shoot me. Overkill, I know, but it's funny. And also just in case we survive. Just in case. That's the survivability part of the equation. Completely and utterly solved, killed, buried, and forgotten, I would say. So, what is the rest of the build? Because, like, there's not many slots for the rest of the build. Let me tell you a secret. This is not a build. Again, this is just throwing every single thing that could stick that makes her survive. And it worked. And why did it work? Because Banshee needs no stats. 130 strength is all that she needs, because her 2 is overkill even at 0 strength. And you only need 130 for the augment on your 1 to completely armor strip enemies. So, strength is completely overkill on her. Duration, it responds well. It responds well to duration, but it's not absolutely necessary because Sonar is recastable. But it's arguable. Actually, I don't think it's arguable. I think it's honestly just better. You could add Prime Continuity here in the Natural Talent slot, and you could add here the casting speed. And this build would be better, for sure. But it's not completely necessary, because even with this build, which has no duration mods and just 1 tau duration, you're already getting 34 seconds on ability that is recastable, and it's also being recasted by resonance every single time you kill an enemy in a weak spot. Duration is not necessary for Sonic Boom, duration is not necessary for Silence either, and we are subsuming over her 4. So duration is not necessary there either, because 7 seconds, like, more than enough duration for a CC for you to kill those enemies and be safe. So, but yeah, adding Prime Continuity would be a strict upgrade for this build, I believe so. And range, that's the spicy part, because if you add too much range, her 3 stops working like it should. Because with this amount of range, you can very easily do this. They are CC'd, and you get away just a little bit, and you come back, and they're CC'd again. Look at that! And you can go away again, and you can come back, and they're CC'd again. And you can keep doing this. And you can keep doing this. And this is the fun part about her 3. But if you have too much range, you would need to go farther away, and it would be an absolute hell to retrigger, so it would just stop. It would stop being useful. so you cannot add even more range. So, with all that I've been saying, that's the reason why I have these two augments. Why I have Cunning Drift, because this is the only range mod in the game that isn't too much for her 3. And Natural Talent again, like up to taste. If you don't feel that she's too slow casting, you don't even need the casting speed, but I really like it. I think it generally makes Warframes feel that much better. So yeah, the strict change that I would make, drop Natural Talent, add Prime Continuity here, and then you can add the casting speed here, and that will be a perfect build. That's how this works. That's how this works, and this is my legacy. Also, it's not my only build with Banshee. I also have this other one that I've already showcased on a different video, so I'm gonna quickly go over it. If you wanna see more detail on why do I do the things that I do, just go watch that video. But this is a perfected version of that build, which we are using Sight Subsume, Quincy Subsume, to be invisible, to activate Arcane Crepuscular, and we stack this final critical chance multiplier, we stack that with absolutely stupid damage from Sonar at 170 strength, and stupid range with this. And we stack that with Worthy Camaraderie, and we stack that with the type of build that you're using for your single target weapons. You add Blast, you add Primary Acuity, you go for as much crit multiplier as possible. We have Deathhead for the headshot multiplier, we have Hammer Shot, with fucking everything that can pump a single shot of damage to the maximum. And when you do all of that, and there is, that's the first big crit. Oh! Oh god! Oh god! That is beyond impressive. That is I love this build so much. Also, for the Archon shots, we're using Primary Status Chance, Primary Status Chance, Primary Status Chance, and I would just keep adding them. Because you want the explosions from your guns to be consistent, and because we are using Primary Acuity, you have no multi-shot, which means status is much more important because you're just shooting one bullet, and you need that blast, bro. And that is the reason. And now, let's go back to the scripted section of the video. Bye-bye. So, after all this time listening to me, like the kids say, yap about the frame that me and my grandma care about, what can be done about it? So here's my trade offer, DE. You get a free rework concept and I get a... Look, I don't even give a shit about the partner program or anything. You just give me the rework and some neat time to sniff and we're cool. Maybe also a Gemini Banshee skin. And a lifetime supply of bile. I need that shit. Easy changes first. Her 1 should get the armor strip by default, and instead of throwing enemies to the floor, it should just make them lose their poise and rumble a little bit. Think of it like a nerf version of her 3 stun animation, and this way you have a reason to cast your 1, while also not anti-synergizing with her 2, so you can use your 1 and still hit weak points without depending on AoE damage. Remember, most AoE weapons that are worth using nowadays don't need a Banshee to kill enemies. So, easy fix, and you can remove that augment so there is less bloat in this endless mod list. Next ability, her 3. This is gonna be a short one. They should clean this list a little bit and make the range way shorter. And that about does it, really. Now, her 2. This is a difficult one, so before potentially introducing problems, I'll just say it. Slightly reduce disability scaling. Cool. Now we can do interesting stuff with it. So, the most important thing. Clean disabilities visuals. Please. I don't care if the visual effects looks like a damn bullseye at this point, and if it literally protrudes from the enemy model. make it look clear. This is terrible. I can only imagine how junk enemy hitboxes are in this game, so making those weak points show up in the actual mesh of the enemy instead of the actual hitbox leaves you confused a lot of times. Like, did I really miss that shot? Make the visuals crystal fucking clear. It must be painfully obvious where a weak point is, and they should work way more consistently. And it's not like they don't have the technology to do this. Have you seen how the spores look with Sarin whenever you cast your one? Are you seeing this? You can just replace this with a bullseye and we are golden. Regarding her 2 augment, I would probably leave it there instead of adding its effects to the ability, but I would add a different one or straight up rework the one we have. So in any of those cases, here's my idea. Echo. Weak points on enemies always coincide with their own natural weak points, while also making the two unstackable. Those weak points will pulsate in and out of existence. Whenever you hit that weak point, it creates a small AoE explosion that scales with range. Said explosion's damage will be based on the first instance of damage that hits the weak point, being multiplied by that weak point scaling. After said explosion, if the target is still alive, the weak point disappears. On recast, it would apply again. What I'm basically saying is, make this build an augment. The idea is very simple. This allows for single target weapons to become Banshee's niche. No one uses snipers. Snipers are fun. And if you reward players for their precision with a functionality that precision usually doesn't give, people will gravitate towards it. No one cares about headshots besides charging your incarnon, which is sad. It is very sad. And this augment would also be balanced because only high damage single target weapons would get enough juice out of the AoE to make it work consistently. Remember, it's just with the first instance of damage. And this way you can choose with Banshee. If you play snipers, pistols, rifles, you use this augment. If you don't, or you don't like the difficulty of having to also time those headshots, you use the old one. Done. Problem fixed. And you can get away with cool muted explosion sounds with a similar VFX to her one. Also, if you wanna give me that power creep, make her 3 cooldown based, and each time you kill with a weak point, you lower that cooldown. That would give some niche use to a low duration Banshee that keeps the enemy in place. Now it's time to tie everything together. Here's where the crazy part comes. Her 4. Her 4 now is a completely new ability. It can reuse assets, so it's cheaper to make, but it is a new ability. This new 4 would have the base functionality of her augmented version, but it does not lock you in place while casting. The CC part of the ability should be changed in the same way as I proposed for her one, but after the sound wave reaches the maximum range, that sound wave reverbs and comes back to you, and gives you overshields. There it is, we fixed Banshee! But wait, this is the cool part. If you time it right, you can cast your one just when the sound wave is almost touching you, and you send it back, making its damage scale for each consecutive wave you can bounce. Yes, I want to be able to bounce a sound wave with your wand. You parry the sound wave to make it stronger. Why has nobody thought of that yet? Go fuck yourself, Sajin. This is so thematically fitting, and if you balance with a high energy cost, this rewards you for consistently hitting it by maintaining your survivability and eventually allowing to nuke if you keep it for long enough. And I know what you're thinking. Bro, do I really need to hit headshots on the right time while also micromanaging a sound wave that keeps me alive? I mean, yeah, like, doesn't that sound sick? Sick and skill though? Banshee has always been a glass cannon, always has been the hard one to use, so why not lean into that? Also, for her passive, I don't know, a silence weapons game punch through, giving a utility to the harsh Exilos mod. I don't fucking know, man. I'm not a game designer, okay? I'm a 28-year-old autistic gym bro that plays the sound lady in the Power Fantasy numbers game, okay? And that's it. That's the video. Rework Banshee 2K25. Share, like, subscribe, and give me fucking money. I am unemployed right now, okay? I don't want Patreons or sponsors or anything. No, come to my door and give me a fat stack of cash on my hand. I'll invite you to coffee. Bye-bye.